Most of the time when we make decisions, we're not actually thinking about probability. We're reacting to feelings, to stories, to headlines, to whatever seems loudest in the moment. But the world doesn't run on stories. It runs on uncertainty. And behind that uncertainty sits one of the simplest and most powerful ideas in all of clear thinking: the ability to update what you believe when new information appears. This is what Bayes' theorem is really about. Not formulas, not complicated math, but a quiet shift in perspective. A way of asking, given what I know now, what should I believe? In this episode, we're going to peel back the confusion, the jargon, the intimidation, and replace it with stories, intuition, and clarity. Because once you learn to think in a Bayesian way, you don't just understand probability. You understand life a little better. Let's begin. Imagine you take a medical test. The result comes back positive. Most people would panic. They would assume the result speaks for itself. They would assume positive means certain. But what if I told you that in many cases, a positive result might still mean there's only a tiny chance you actually have the illness? This sounds impossible. It sounds backwards. It sounds like a trick. But it's not a trick. It's Bayes' theorem. And once you understand it, without formulas, without jargon, without mathematical walls, you begin to see the world with a clarity that most people never experience. Because Bayes is not about numbers. It's about updating your beliefs in a noisy, uncertain world. Bayes is a way of thinking, and today we're going to explore it with simple stories, intuitive examples, and no equations at all. Only clear thinking. Let's begin with a simple truth. Human beings are terrible with probability. Our brains evolved to survive, not to calculate. We jump to conclusions. We mistake loud events for common ones. We confuse what feels likely with what is likely. Bayes fixes this. Bayes gives us a quiet, calm way to rethink uncertainty. At its heart, Bayes answers one question. Given some new evidence, what should you believe now, not yesterday? Not in theory, but now. To understand this, we have to start with the idea of a prior your initial belief before seeing new information. It's the mental map you already have of the world. Sometimes that map is accurate. Sometimes it's wildly wrong. But Bayes never asks you to throw out your map. It simply asks you to update it. Let's use the classic medical test example. Suppose a disease is extremely rare. Maybe 1 in 1,000 people have it. That's your prior belief, a 0.1% chance. Now imagine the test is very accurate. It catches nearly everyone who has the disease. It almost never misses. But it also has a small false positive rate. Maybe it incorrectly says, you have the disease 1% of the time. If your test result comes back positive, what does that mean? Most people would jump to something like 90% or 95%. But the truth is far lower. When a disease is rare, even a good test produces a lot more false positives than true positives. Because far more healthy people are being tested than sick ones. And this is the key idea. Evidence is only meaningful when combined with base rates your priors. A positive result doesn't replace your prior belief. It updates it. The chance goes up from 0.1%, but not anywhere near 90%. The final probability might still be just a few percent. This is Bayes in action. Quiet, logical, surprising, and incredibly powerful. Let's move away from medicine for a moment and into something more everyday. Imagine you lose your house keys. You think there's a 40% chance they're in the living room and a 60% chance they're in the kitchen. That's your prior belief. You search the living room thoroughly. Cushions lifted, sofa checked, every corner scanned, and you don't find them. What happens to your belief? Without Bayes, many people simply keep searching the same room again and again, convinced they must have missed something. But Bayesian thinking says something different. If the keys were in the living room, you almost certainly would have found them. But you didn't. That failure is new information, and it should update your belief. After a thorough search, the chance the keys are in the kitchen becomes much higher than before. Your belief shifts naturally and logically without equations. That shift is Bayes. It's not about mathematics. It's about learning. Let's try another example, one that reveals something deeper about how we misinterpret danger. Imagine you hear on the news that a shark attack happened today. The headline is dramatic. The images are terrifying. Suddenly, the beach feels more dangerous in your mind, even though shark attacks are extremely rare. What happened? Your prior belief that shark attacks are unlikely just got overwhelmed by a vivid piece of evidence. But Bayes reminds us to step back. Your prior matters. The new information matters. But most important is the quality of that new information. A single story is not data. A headline is not a statistic. One dramatic event does not erase the base rate. Bayesian thinking protects you from fear-driven reasoning. Let's explore another powerful insight from Bayes. Most people misunderstand the importance of base rates, the underlying frequency of an event. This mistake is so common, it has a name, the base rate fallacy. Imagine someone says, this personality test can detect dishonest people with 90% accuracy. That sounds impressive. But if dishonest people are very rare, the test will be wrong most of the time, even if it is technically accurate. It's the same logic as the medical test illusion. Without knowing the base rate, you cannot interpret the result. Bayes tells us that information doesn't exist in isolation. It always interacts with what you already know. Let's dig deeper into why this matters. Every day, we face situations where we must interpret uncertain information, news reports, financial predictions, scientific claims, social media posts, business metrics, even gossip. Without Bayesian thinking, we often react emotionally, not logically. We anchor on the most dramatic piece of evidence. We ignore the quiet background statistics that actually matter. Bayes teaches us humility. It teaches us that initial beliefs can be wrong. But it also teaches us not to throw them away at the first sign of new data. Evidence must be weighed, not swallowed. Bayes also reveals something subtle. Thinking in probabilities is far more realistic than thinking in absolutes. In life, things are almost never 100% or 0%. They are usually more likely or less likely. Bayesian thinking trains us to embrace that nuance. Let's add one more example, one that surprises people every time. Imagine you're watching a detective show. A crime occurs. The detective finds evidence pointing toward a suspect. But the evidence is not perfect. A fingerprint match, for example, might have a 1% chance of error. Most viewers assume this means the suspect is guilty with 99% probability. But that's not how it works. You must consider how many potential suspects exist, how common the fingerprint pattern is, how strong the prior belief was before the evidence appeared. Without the base rates, the evidence tells only half the story. Bayes forces you to combine the two halves. So how do we apply this in real life without math? We use a 3-step mental framework. Step 1, start with your prior. What did you believe before the new information arrived? How common or rare is the event? What does your background knowledge suggest? Step 2, examine the new evidence. Is it reliable? Is it noisy? Is it dramatic but rare? Does it come from a strong source or a weak one? Step 3, update your belief. Don't flip it upside down. Don't ignore it. Just adjust it gently in the direction the evidence points. This is Bayesian thinking. It's not about formulas. It's about being intellectually flexible. It's about seeing uncertainty not as confusion, but as information waiting to be clarified. And now comes the twist, the deeper meaning behind Bayes' theorem. Bayes is not a mathematical trick. It's a worldview. It teaches you that beliefs are not fixed. They are fluid. They evolve. They sharpen over time. With every new piece of evidence, your understanding becomes a little clearer, a little more refined, a little closer to reality. In a world overflowing with information, misinformation, noisy data, contradictory headlines, the people who thrive are not the people who cling to certainty. They are the people who can update their beliefs intelligently. Bayes doesn't give you perfect answers. It gives you better answers. Answers that grow stronger as more evidence arrives. answers that reflect reality instead of emotion. If there is one message to take from this idea, it is this: the world is uncertain. Your beliefs should be too until the evidence becomes clear. Bayesian thinking is the art of staying open yet grounded, curious yet careful, flexible yet rational. It is how you navigate uncertainty with wisdom instead of fear. And once you begin thinking this way, you start to see the world differently, not as fixed truths, but as evolving insights. Not as black and white, but as gradients of probability. In the end, Bayes' theorem is not about math. It's about becoming a better thinker. And now you are one. Script ends. Bayesian thinking isn't about certainty. It's about movement, the movement of belief, gently adjusting as the world reveals new information. It reminds us that no opinion is final, no conclusion permanent, and no belief immune to revision. In a world full of noise, errors, and overconfidence, the ability to update your thinking might be the closest thing we have to a superpower. Bayes' theorem won't make you perfect. It won't give you flawless predictions. But it will make you wiser. It will make you calmer in the face of uncertainty. And it will give you a framework for understanding the world, not as a set of fixed truths, but as a landscape that becomes clearer each time you learn something new. If this episode helped you see probability with new eyes, consider joining me for the next one. We explore the hidden ideas behind everyday reasoning, the ideas that quietly shape how we think, choose, and understand the world. Until then, remember, don't cling to beliefs. Update them. That's where clarity begins.